Okay, so welcome to this new moon reading. The eclipse is passing in some places, beginning in others, but it's affecting fully around the world to everybody on this planet at this time. And this is a great time for alignment. Quite adequate. I don't know, quite positively, I'd say, but aligned with this special time. I get this ace as the first card. So I've got a 4-card reading, which I'm going to show you. The ace is the first card, and I'm going to show you this first ace in at the same time as the second card, which was the reverse Knight of Wands. And we're going to look at them one by one, and then there's another 2 cards that I'm going to show you in a bit that came out also together. First of all, this ace, and aces are all asking us to be open to receive a gift in some way. And this ace is a gift of inspiration that wants us to feel, wants us to embody, wants us to very consciously say yes to. But in order to consciously say yes to anything, we kind of have to know what we're saying yes to. This is an opportunity. A lot of people see this as an opportunity. But an opportunity to what? An opportunity to receive what? What are we saying yes to? What does this wand represent for us? And what is this specific aspect of life? Opportunity in the world, opportunity in our lives, opportunity in the etheric fire element. What does that mean? What does that translate as, in mundane terms, so that we can open our minds and open our hearts and say yes to it? And it'll translate in different ways for different people, according to who we are, according to where we are, according to what's going on in our lives right now. But it will always translate as this opportunity to level up our ability to be seen. This is the element of fire, and fire lights up the world. It transforms the world. It changes one thing to another, and it brings this creative, transformational, healing potential into our lives. It shines a light like the sun does right now on the world. It shines a light upon us, and it allows us to be seen. It allows us to be felt. It allows us to be touched in many ways. And the light touches us, and this is said to be like the hand of God coming out and pulling and offering us something important. And what we feel is important here, what we can see is important. I'm just going to just bring certain extra light into this reading as well as I plug my computer in, because that's one of the things that needs to be offered. Electricity comes down through this card. Electricity comes down through our body. Light comes down in our body as well. And this is us symbolically plugging ourselves into source, as I just plugged my computer in. This is us asking ourselves to plug ourselves into the source of energy, the source of inspiration. We plug a light in to switch the light on, and we plug it into the mains or to the source of electricity, and that's the silly symbolic that I didn't do on purpose. Excuse me, I thought I was being very unprofessional. The way that's what we're being asked to do. It's like saying, hey, do you want this wand? Do you want this opportunity to feel a stronger connection to your heart, to your purpose in life, to your mission, to your intuition, to your fire, to your ability to stand out and achieve something, your ability to actually Jump into your healing potential, your ability to experience your connection to the light, to source, in a more conscious way. What does that mean? Are we going to be able to open our minds and hear intuitive thoughts, feel them in our bodies? Are we going to be able to act with instinct? Are our actions going to be automatically connected? Are our thoughts going to be uplifted? Are we going to get inspired? Are we going to feel that passionate arousal that can sometimes be sexual as well, that's going to be asked to be brought into our life in a healthy way, in a real way, in a way that excites us with passion, that may give us pleasure, but not just so that we can roll around in pleasure, but so that we can be a lighter version of ourselves and influence the world in a more beautiful way. That's part of what this rod of power, this ace of wands, is asking us to hold on to take in a new way, to embrace. So are we going to get clearer? Can we ask ourselves the questions, for example, how can I be clear about what I'm doing here in my life, what my life is all about? Ask these questions today. Ask these questions about what's my deeper meaning? What is there a deeper purpose and a deeper and more real path that I can walk, that I maybe am walking, that I probably am already walking unconsciously, but I am asked to do or to walk this walk in a more conscious way. The night that I showed you, this night that's reversed, standing on his head, is that part of, is that adolescent part of us that may be a little bit too stubborn or too egotistical. And the reverse court of wands have a tendency to be quite egotistical in nature, or stereotypically egotistical, because the ego can grab each element in a different way. It's just going to come out in a way that we naturally call selfish, or we naturally call arrogant, maybe, or we naturally think as being the ones, when they're twisted inside of us, it comes out in our desire for self-importance. But this knight is desiring self-importance not because he just wants to be the best, but because he doesn't feel enough. And are we thinking of grabbing this wand and being a channel for the divine, or being in service in some way or another for this world? Are we thinking of doing that so that we can be better, or so that the world can be better? How altruistic is our intention? And I thought I plugged my computer in, but I didn't. Now there's even more light coming in. Okay. I love it. This time of the eclipse is about the alignment between sun, moon, and earth. And in that alignment, it's a symbolic alignment. The moon represents our subconscious. The sun represents the super consciousness. So it's a higher part of ourselves connecting in direct alignment with a more subconscious part of ourselves, in direct alignment with a more physical, base, grounded, earth consciousness. And when these alignments take place, it's easier for us to pick up a direct message of truth, a direct message of guidance that we might be looking for in our lives. This is why this is quite a powerful time, and it's a great opportunity for us to ask deeper questions and get deeper answers. It's a great opportunity for us to be able to feel this two-way communication between our normal mundane awareness and that higher awareness, which we might just tap into on occasions, or we might just feel the presence of every now and then. And this is one of those times to tap in. And it means letting go of that knight's adolescence to want to be special, or to be coming from a need, or coming from any feelings of lack, but just to grab that wand, and the knight's true upright strength is his enthusiasm to share something beautiful with the world, but not to in order to appear beautiful, not in order to make out that he's the special one or that we are the special one, but just to celebrate the light in itself, in its essence, and to be a channel for that light. And the night is asking us to be careful with any ego stories that might be coming up, any stories of conflict that we might want to fight against, when in reality life is asking us to get excited for something, not excited against anything. And when we are passionate about being anti something, which this knight often is in his very adolescent way, we're missing the point. The wand is not to fight anybody else or anything else. It's not to have a battle. It's not a battle of egos, not a battle of who's better and who's worse, who's more right and who's more wrong. The wand's truth is about connection to heart. It's about connection to each other. And so unless we can fight for something, which this knight is very willing to do when he's the right way up, then we're finding our ego has sabotaged the wand, which sometimes happens, and it'll happen in different ways. If we're feeling like we have to defend ourselves against the world, that we're being attacked, then this will be in some way or another our ego as well, holding on to certain stories of needing to be more than we actually are. We're just right the way we are. We might not feel it. We might feel the lack, and we might feel that lack in abundance. We might feel our life is missing more than one thing. We might feel we're missing more than one thing, but in reality, we're not. We're actually manifesting right here, right now, the exact reality that is proportionate to where we need to be in this life right here, right now. Does that mean we need to stay here? Does that mean we can't create more beautiful realities and different ones at that? No, it doesn't. But it doesn't mean that we have to embrace without fear exactly where we are. And only when we embrace exactly where we are, exactly what we have manifested, even though crap might be happening in our lives, whatever may be taking place is part of a bigger picture to teach us, to help us learn, to help us grow, and in essence, to shed a little bit more light on what might be a subconscious stories. And there's going to be some of that coming out in this time in our lives as well. And this is a reading which can be seen as a good reading for the next period of our lives, and the next stage, whether you want to see it as the next couple of weeks or just the next month or so, it doesn't really matter. Whenever you work with readings, they're always going to be the cards. When you pick cards subconsciously, your subconscious knows exactly how long you're going to remember the reading and how long you're going to pay attention to it. And it's that length of attention that you have that the reading is for, and for no more. If you go back to it 6 months from now, then your subconscious also knows it's going to be for that time too. But it's usually for the time that you remember it. So whenever you feel that you're receiving guidance in some way, make sure that you can prolong that guidance and deepen in that guidance as much as you can in order to get the most of it. So this ace, the God, the source, is wanting us to grab it, to grab our connection, to plug ourselves in to source in a more conscious way. It wants us to do so with less ego involved, with a little bit more service and a little bit more heart, so that our intuition can flow. The next two cards are these two. It's the Temperance card, which is also reversed, and the Five of Cups. And the Temperance, being the major arcana card in this reading, has a certain important quality to it. This is a card which, if we're telling the story of wanting to embrace this Ace of Wands and wanting to say yes to something, the Temperance is saying that we need to be very aware of, okay, these two cards come up together, so we need to be very aware of how our tendency to focus on the negative, to be a little bit pessimistic, to focus on what we've lost, what we've lacked, what hurts us, what doesn't feel good, what isn't right, what isn't working, how I'm not good enough, and all of the spilt cup emotion story, how that spilt cup emotion tendency and sometimes that hyper awareness that we have about protecting ourselves by focusing on the negative, because when we focus on the negative, it will allow us to avoid it sometimes when we need to avoid it. When we focus on the negative, it will allow us to maybe avoid certain aspects of that negativity being exaggerated, even though that's not true. It actually can exaggerate it quite deeply. But when we focus on the negative, it allows us to close up, it allows us to cover up, it allows us to hide. And the Ace of Wands, does not want us to be hiding. It wants us to open up and be seen. And there's a tendency that we have to hide ourselves, to not allow ourselves to be seen through fear. And it's a fear the Knight has as well. He only wants to be seen in a certain light. We only want to be seen in a certain light. And we always kind of project that character onto the world. We project that persona out there, whereas inside of ourselves, we know we're slightly different. We don't have to judge ourselves, fear who we are, fear how we speak, fear how we look. We don't have to be afraid of any of that, because it's all perfect and there's nothing wrong with it. And what we might judge as being maybe not so great, somebody else would look at and say, I love that. And this is just a matter of perception. Are we going to be able to turn around and focus on those two cups that are behind us? Because if we do, we can turn this card around and we can channel the consciousness between the sun and the moon, between spirit and the subconscious moon and our physical material consciousness. We can have the passage of the divine through our consciousness into us in a clearer, without blockages, without obstacles fashion. We can be that angelic. We've all got this capacity to tap into angelic guidance with our inside us. We think of it as like, ooh, like a big thing, which it is, but it's also inside of us. And we need to remember that. We need to remember that there is a higher consciousness that wants to be communicating to us all the time. And half the time we get in the way. We get in the way by closing us down, by protecting ourselves from all those negative things. And that will make ourselves a little bit smaller, a little bit more hidden. But of course, that feels safe. And it doesn't always feel safe to open up and to be exposed and to share ourselves and show ourselves, when that would open ourselves to potential more pain and potential feeling that ego being hurt once again, as we might be rejected, as we might be pushed away, as we might not feel compatibility or connection with the world around us. Connection that we're looking for is inside of us always. And that connection is the connection with that angelic part, with that godlike part, with the source inside of us. And we do so by just feeling into ourselves, feeling into our bodies, staying aware of what our subconscious patterns are, without needing to fight those patterns, looking at our programs without fearing what they might say, without avoiding the shame and the guilt that might come up when we look at our programs and all of the mistakes that we've made. These 3 cups are that are spilt here. All of the mistakes that we've made, all of the mistakes that other people have made that have influenced us and hurt us and that made us feel pain, they're all the sorrow and the shame and the pity and the guilt and the fears that we have a tendency to be allergic to and yet be hyper alert to at the same time. All of those stories, all of those mistakes have come to teach us something. All of the shame is just a gateway into some form of inner compassion. We need to embrace it all. It's actually part of our healing to embrace our own guiltiness and our own shamefulness and our own lacks that we have told ourselves are so important, and we've made them so important that they become scary. If we can accept anything that feels uncomfortable that's inside of us, and it's not an easy process, not something for us to do everything all at once, but it is something for us to be aware of and something for us to be conscious of, because we can't have a true, honest communication with ourselves and a consequent communication with source if we're holding on to a lot of fear, if we're holding on to a lot of self-doubt. So seeing it, owning it, embracing it as something beautiful, moving on, not just focusing on it forever, but turning around and looking at what we've still got, how much love we have in our hearts, how much light we have in ourselves, is part of what will allow us to say yes to walk in our life with a little bit more purpose, a little bit more clarity, and we'll be able to channel some form of intuition into our lives where we can get a little bit more clear about where we're going and why we're going there, get a little bit more clear about what we're doing on a day-to-day mundane basis, because it's all part of it. And be conscious of the little me that's afraid, and the little me that wants to be bigger and better and is afraid of being seen exactly how I am, and the shame of silly stories that don't mean anything. Much love to you all. I hope you enjoyed this reading, and I'll sign off here.